In terms of Arsenal, there's lots to delve into with Arsenal today, but we know the medical has been permission has been given by West Ham for the medical of Declan Rice. It is felt that talks are progressing very well with Urian Timber, 45 to 48 million euros to get that deal done. But yeah, the Rice deal, seismic for Arsenal, beat City to him. Medical going to be happening imminently. Havertz through the door. Urian Timber next. Everybody expects that deal to complete, but a brilliant start to the window for Arsenal, Dean.
Yeah, an unbelievable platform for them to get to use for pre-season. Obviously, Havertz now announced. Rice won't be far behind, and Timber shouldn't be either. If things are going the way they are, should get an agreement of that of around 42, 43 million pound. Hopefully by after the weekend, if things go well for them, as they feel they have been going so far. Like even his personal terms are like just ridiculously low, really, for what you'd expect of a player who's going to come in and help transform like the tightness of your back line and the discipline and the way that you're going to play. He also adds a real aggressiveness that Arteta has been wanting and needing. Timber will have a very front-footed approach to defending, which I think Arsenal want and need. They don't want to. They feel like they're going to come up against different challenges next season, and one of those might be slightly more physical. So they want to make sure that they are 100% equipped for that. They've got players that can reflect that. But yeah, beating off Man City in their late hijack of Declan Rice is really significant. They've found the way to make this work financially. So fair play to them. They've delivered on that, and they delivered to basically the promise that they've made to Declan Rice that they would make this happen by the time his holidays were done and by the time pre-season he was ready for pre-season. So they've lived up to that. And what they'll do now, to be honest, if once these three transfers are confirmed, they'll just take a brief pause really and assess like where they're at and what outgoings they can make. That's going to be the next chapter of this, because they do need to iron a few things out. There are a few uncertain situations across all positions, to be honest, and they won't let everybody go. I think everybody sees it as like a foregone conclusion that like Thomas Partey's gone and things like that. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion. I think you still have to make sure that the squad's going to be well enough equipped to take on all the challenges of next season and the different competitions that are going to come their way. But yeah, there's obviously been rumours around players like Cancelo, and will they go straight in for a bid for a player like that? I don't think they will go straight in for a player like that. I think that they need to know exactly where they sit. There's been a bit of uncertainty around Gabriel. There's a couple of clubs sniffing around his situation and whether he stays at Arsenal. I think the probability is that Gabriel does remain at Arsenal, but there's definitely a bit of uncertainty about it that could come around again. And if they would suddenly lose out, then they have to go out and sign a new centre-back. They've been looking at Mark Gahey at Crystal Palace, just like Tottenham have, but at the moment he's priced out of the deal. He'd probably stay at Palace, to be honest, because they're looking at like £60 million for him. And that's seen as just a bit too much for anyone that's keen on him at the moment. But yeah, there's a lot to sort out. I think the most exciting thing that might be yet to come after these would be if they were to go for another wide forward. There's been talk about it coming into the transfer window. Since it begun, they've put their priorities elsewhere. But it wouldn't surprise me if once we get to maybe August even, and they start to assess exactly what they need. You saw Saka last season. By the end of the season, when it really mattered, he might have just not had enough in his legs. Like the guy had been turned out week after week for 90 minutes and expected to come up with the goods. And, you know, even as a youngster, like you're not a machine. You can't just constantly be doing it. So perhaps they just need not even competition, but just a safer rotator, I guess, that can come in there. But yeah, there's still going to be work to be done. Yeah,
that's very true. You sort of look at. I know he didn't actually score in his last 7 games, but they'd already kind of won the league by then. You look at the Haalands and the Grealishes and the Fodens and the Gundoğans in that last 10 games of the season in all comps. The freshness they had compared to Man United legs, Arsenal legs, is different, and that's because they just had the luxury of far more rotation earlier on in the season. I mean, Haaland was taken off so early, and so I mean, he could have scored an extra 15 goals last season.
Yeah,
He'd been kept on the pitch for 90 minutes, but he was coming off 60, 70 minutes week in, week out. You add that up over a season, that's hundreds of more minutes. You know, you probably saved 1,000 minutes in his legs. And then when it comes to crunch time, you've got that. And I think that's something that the likes of Saka at Arsenal and Martinelli maybe as well need a bit more of next season, where you're not quite seeing them as regularly at the start and the middle, but then you can utilize that saving of their legs at the end of the season when it comes to crunch time, because Arsenal, as we say, got to be fighting on all four fronts. Obviously, Dean, this super chat's mentioned any incomings after there. You mentioned some. Is there anything happening with Lavia? So is it are Arsenal still looking at Lavia? Are they likely to bid for Lavia as far as you're aware?
I think that Lavia fits better with what they might be able to do. You've considered some of the other midfield options that they might be able to look at, and this would be dependent on another midfielder going, by the way. So, as it stands, not going to go straight out and get Lavia. I don't think they would probably want to need to get rid of someone first, but Lavia is going to be in that bracket of 30 to 40 million pounds, and you're dealing with Southampton, who've just been relegated and have barely a hope in hell of being able to keep someone of that level. So yeah, that is absolutely a deal that you could see doable. When they're suddenly linked with signing Tchouaméni from Real Madrid, I mean, you're talking about a completely different ballpark there. Why would Tchouaméni, who cost 100 million euros a year ago, be gettable for a club like Arsenal, who are having to structure deals, they don't have the cash flow available to be able to do a deal like that, I don't think, because Arsenal's recent history hasn't been of an elite football club who's constantly in the Champions League and challenging from the Premier League and having all this other incoming funds. They will have that cash now, in the coming seasons. That's what's helped them with the Declan Rice deal. Is Arsenal are now back in the Champions League, and they will establish themselves again in the Champions League. Now that they're investing in this way, they will stay in that conversation. So there can be confidence that they are now able to fight on a different financial front. But with an outlay on Havertz and Timber and Declan Rice exceeding £200 million, and already having to finance that in a way that is carefully structured, to go to Real Madrid and say, oh, we would also like Tchouaméni, here's £100 million, but can we spread it over 6 seasons? Real Madrid aren't going to be willing to do that because they're one of the biggest clubs in the world. Other teams, yeah, you've got a chance of doing that, but I just feel in a discussion with teams like Real Madrid, you're just not going to get very far. Plus, somebody like Tchouaméni is a different level in terms of being able to actually get. So that's why, basically, to go back to the Lavia point, that's why I see him as a bit more of a reasonable target once they start going down that path. Yeah.
Yeah, do you know what's interesting with Arsenal? Yeah, I think Tchouaméni it's a pipe dream signing in terms of I don't even think Arsenal will make an official approach in any capacity for Tchouaméni. They may want him, they may be able to afford him, as you say, via amortization over time, but I just don't see Real Madrid saying yes. I don't see the player wanting to leave Real Madrid right now. So it becomes a non-starter. If the player hasn't got a massive desire to leave and join you, clubs don't bid anyway, let alone Real Madrid saying no. So it's one of those things. But I do look at Caicedo's an interesting one, but he's going to be very expensive. But I look at Lavia. Lavia almost feels if you need to want to buy another young up-and-coming midfield player, what's Lavia going to cost you? 35, 40 million? And the ceiling of him, I'm not saying he's as good as a Tchouaméni or as good as a Caicedo, but he has a brilliant ceiling. He's far more affordable. He's easier to get. And Arsenal probably need to look over the next few weeks at who is going to leave, as you've mentioned, who's going to stay. Pre-season is going to be key. And there could be a player or two they're thinking of selling or loaning out that just come back spent the last 5-6 weeks in the gym working hard. They're a few pounds heavier. But, Fabio Vieira could come back this summer and be far better than he was last year. And Arsenal may go, actually, look, we were looking at another attacking player, but maybe he can fill that void. Maybe Smith Rowe comes back and he's looking fitter and sharper and he'll fill that void. So they put their focus and energy in another area on the football pitch. So I think it's time for them to assess the squad maybe before jumping straight into another signing. But yeah, Tchouaméni, I very much doubt will happen personally. Just reading the story.
Well, all 3 of those players that they're signing right now, Havertz, Timber and Rice, were all gettable. And there was all reasons to believe that those guys wanted to join. Like Rice, they've had indications for months that he was happy to join Arsenal. And they knew that West Ham would have to sell him. Timber is a very gettable signing again. Man United probably could have got him a year ago if they'd pushed hard enough at 43, 44 million pounds. That could have probably been done then. And Kai Havertz, his situation's been uncertain for months too. And it became clear quite quickly when Chelsea put out a list to intermediaries of players that were available. Havertz was on the list. Arsenal pounced. So they're all three signings of no risk in terms of like, is this player interested in it? So to go for Tchouaméni, if they got an indication that Tchouaméni wasn't happy at Real Madrid, or that Real Madrid wanted to sell him, then that becomes a different conversation. And like, maybe you can start to negotiate around a fee, but there aren't really the signs around Madrid that that's going to happen.
Yeah, no, I
What happened to all the Edu out, by the way? Last time I was on here.
Yeah,
Where have they gone?
The Edu out is definitely gone. I think Lavia is a very open option. I think the other players Arsenal were looking at are not even being mentioned by the media. I think they're very much like Uri and Timber. I think it'll be a player, not same position when I say like him, but I think it'll be a scenario like that. He'll be sitting there one evening and there'll be a big breaking news story that comes out and it'll be Arsenal in for, and it'll be an attacking midfielder or a winger or a number 9. You're like, oh, wow, it's come out of nowhere. I think that's you've got to kind of think about it. The Rice, both Timber and Havertz came out of nowhere. Both of them did. The only one that's been protruded that we all knew about was Declan Rice. That's been going on since February. The other two, they just came from almost nowhere. If you'd have said at the end, last game of the season, Arsenal are going to buy Kai Havertz, you would have been absolutely laughed out the window. So I wouldn't be surprised if the next player that Arsenal sign is someone that we're not even talking about or focused on right now, because they have been conducting their business really, really well so far, Arsenal. And there's a lot of doubts when City got involved with the Declan Rice thing. But look, it depends on what media outlet you follow. Some are saying City walked away. Some are stating that the player chose Arsenal, so City walked.
Why they bid and walk away? You wouldn't do that. You wouldn't do
that. No. I think in the cold hard light of day, this is my honest opinion. I think City were like, right, we can match the bid that Arsenal put in and get accepted as well, because they were never going to pay over, because they don't do that. And I just think they've gone, but who would Rice choose? And Rice has gone, I want Arsenal. So City went, we'll walk away then and save face, which is what everybody does. Man United tried to spin it last year that we weren't in for Darwin Núñez once he'd picked Liverpool. And it's but we were. Like, why are we all lying for? It's crazy to me. This here says, Terry, what will you cover when Arsenal buy all their targets?
Man United.
Well, just like today, the headline of the show is about the Caicedo. The next one is about Mount. We spoke about Kane on the show and his deal. There's Onana. I said it before. The only reason in the last 2 weeks we've done more videos about Arsenal's transfers than anybody else is because they're the most active club. The most active club was Chelsea. We do more videos about Chelsea, my friend. So that is what we'll do. But thanks for the super.
I think that's what that's what you're heading towards as well now. You know, Arsenal obviously been the early leaders in this, but the fact Man United haven't done anything yet is exciting from your point of view, because you've got loads of Man United stories to cover in the next 2 months. But Chelsea too, like Chelsea are going to have to spend a lot more money if to let go of this many players and to start replacing with, got to get 2 significant names through the door, no doubt.
110%. How much should we be looking at for outgoings at Arsenal? 100 million is kind of a suggestion here from Ibby. It depends who they sell, isn't it, Dean? I mean, I think.
Yeah. I mean, that is going to be the focus. They've got to get rid of a few people now, and they want to figure out like exactly who goes and what options there are out there. So that will be the next phase of this. I don't know what sort of number we're looking at the moment, because as you say, we don't know. Is it there's a surprise transfer like Gabriel suddenly joins PSG, or is it simply that Thomas Partey's moved on and like Balogun goes and these sorts of transfers? So might be a mix of both. We'll have to wait and see, but it depends on the profile of those players and on who actually needs replacing and who doesn't.